Hello there. In this video, I'm going to show you how I turn the snowman and the tree shown in the images on screen now. Thanks for watching. So the snowman and the tree both start off from a piece of beech that was 50mm thick timber, cut 50mm wide to about 140mm in length, turned between centres and roughed down to the cylinder and put into the chuck. So first thing, because this is a snowman, I don't want it to be 50mm diameter, I need it smaller, so I'm going to use the roughing gouge and get it down to about 40mm diameter. You'll notice on here that my tool rest isn't tight enough, I've got to fix that as a problem with the grip. So here we are, getting roughly down to the finished diameter that I want for the snowman, and because I want to use the tools, I'm going to now use a skew chisel just to smooth it up. This obviously doesn't actually appear in the finished item, but a bit more tool practice. There we are, it's now to the diameter I want it. I now need to mark the limit of the final snowman. This helps with a little bit of shaping later on. Next is to trim down where the tailstock point is into the timber, so I need to trim off about 6mm, just roughly at the moment, because this is the end that the hat of the snowman will be eventually. So gouge using spindle gauge. Now to get rid of some of the wood, roughly where the hat's going to be. No two snowmen are the same, so the hat can be any shape that the tool decides to do. It's a bit of a control for me. Now to start shaping in the head and the body of the snowman. It's key to remember that the head isn't completely round, it does disappear into what will be the hat, so the top of the hat needs to be the right size to obviously make that look correct. Now I'm not a professional, so you'll see quite a few multiple attempts where the professional could do this in a much quicker time, and probably with one tool, and I'll swap between tools just so I get the practice and the ones that I know I'm most comfortable with to do certain things. Most of this is going to be turned with the spindle gouge, which is ground to a fingernail profile. One of the skills of doing this is know when to stop, because you can't actually put wood back on once you've taken it off. Just to get in under the hat, use the tip of the skew chisel, the smaller one. Just to trim the edge of the hat to make it a more appropriate diameter. The rim looks a bit thick to me, so trim it off again. Now a bit more shaping of the hat. Now I've got the size of the head sorted. Now to shape the body, I like to go in slightly at the bottom. This is why trimming it earlier on makes it easier for the skew chisel to run off the end. Now it's time to get the tailstock support out of the way and just trim off using the fingernail gouge the top of the hat. The better this cut, the less sanding there is later on. All that's left now is to sand it. If this is going to be painted, I sand it down through 3 grades of grit, starting with 100 up to 180. If it's to be a polished snowman, then I'll go all the way up to probably 600 grit and then use a friction polish. But this is because it's just for demonstration, I'm going to go down to 180 grit and take it off the lathe. Normally if I'm painting them, I will leave it in the chuck mount, take it off, paint it with a base coat of white emulsion a couple of times, then put it back into the chuck and just use a fine wire mesh just to smooth down the paint and then part it off. But this is just to show the turning technique. I'm going to part it off just after sanding down. So there it is, ready to be parted off for the lathe. So put back the tool rest and it'll probably move again because the grip's not good enough. As you can see, left hand side's hitting the edge of the chuck. And with the parting tool, get it into position and then just support the snowman, making sure that no hands or no clothes get in the way. Part it off, then with the skew chisel just trim the bottom of the base, get the little nib that's off. And there we have a snowman ready to have the nose put in, which is now, so it's a 3.5mm hole drilled in. Note the gloves, so I've already drilled by hand once this year with a much bigger drill and ended up in surgery. So now wear the gloves. So hole drilled, put a bit of super glue in, and then it's knocking in a 3.5mm square piece of beech that I cut hundreds of these some time ago in one batch. I've just used a Stanley knife to trim the end to make it easier to go in. Put it in, use a hammer and just tap it all the way home. Next is to use a Dremel saw, or whatever tool you've got really. Again, gloves on for protection. Hold it firmly and then control the cut so that it trims off the end to whatever length that you want it to be. The final task is to then use the Dremel with the small sanding disc in it and just shape it to, not a point, but something that's a bit better shape than the little cut-off piece of wood that was in there. What you have to try and do here is avoid catching the body or the hat with the sanding pad. And there we are, one snowman. Next up is how to turn the tree. So the start is the same as we did for the snowman, but this time I don't need to turn the blank down to a smaller diameter because the whole 50mm of the square block will be used to form the tree. I like to describe these as Lego trees. So the first thing is to put it into a cone, shorten the sequence, which is about a minute in total, using the rough and gouge as shown there. Once you've got it into a cone, I tend to use the large skew chisel just to smooth it off. You can see my respirator in the shot there. And once I've got it to a cone, use a parting chisel and just put in the branches. I like to call these the Lego shaped trees, as you'll see quite clearly once they start to form. Just round the end off. In a little while I'll get rid of that tailstock and do a bit more there. But as you go down towards the base of the tree, the trunk component gets thicker and thicker, so you keep the strength in the actual finished item. If this was a polished tree, once it's turned, I'd sand it down to 600 grit and then finish it with probably melamine lacquer to get into all the gaps with a brush and then polish it up. If it's to be painted, then I'll typically leave it on the piece of wood that's in the chuck and dip the branches, the leaves part of the tree in a green dye so it all soaks in. Let that dry and then put white paint and whatever colouring we then want on the base of the tree and the bottom trunk. As you see, it doesn't take long to do a tree, probably about 3 minutes start to finish. Once we get to the full width of the blank, then part this off a couple of times so that we get the effect of a trunk before it goes into the base. And it's just a case of setting the bottom of the base and then trimming it or turning it to a shape that suits your fancy. you see once again that tool rest is not tight enough, so I've obviously got a worn clamp somewhere which I need to fix. Finally use the spindle gouge just to shape the stand, and then just put a bit of decoration, and I'll use a skew chisel, just the point to put some lines in, and it's sanded and parted off. Final light cut touches there just to get rid of the hole made by the tailstock. Then sanding, much the same as I did for the tree. Again, I've shortened this sequence. If you've got thicker timber, 60-70 millimeter timber, and then obviously you can make wider trees, and they can be respectively longer as well, and get more and more of the branches in. Don't sand too much on the actual trunk part or underneath the branches, because leaving them slightly rough, it allows them to soak in whatever finish you're putting on. Here we go, parting it off, same process as we used for the snowman. Then trim the in. You can see here how thin that spigot can get and still turn the tree. If I'd let go, that would still keep spinning. And there you have it. Up next is a couple of photos, a few photos of the finished items and some other ones, and thank you for watching.